Almost a week ago now at this point, Black Ops 4 got a massive title update in which a lot of different weapons were tuned in some form or another. Now, whether or not this changed some of the statistical breakdowns of weapons or just altered some of the meta play of how these weapons worked, there are a handful that may not feel as good as they used to in your hands. So with that, as a lot of updates may show with weapon balancing, it might change a little bit of how you look at some of these weapons and some of the best ones for each classification. So today I want to take a look at 5 of the best class setups here, one for each main primary category, and give you guys my breakdown on what I think is the best weapon and the class setup to use with each of those. So today we're going to be taking a look at 1 assault rifle, 1 SMG, 1 tactical rifle, 1 LMG, and 1 sniper rifle as well. So hopefully this can make your way into your regular playstyle, and maybe if you end up enjoying them as much as I do, you can end up shredding through your enemies, to which case I'd love to hear your results down there in the comments, or if you want to tweet me them over on Twitter, feel free to as well. But that said, let's just jump right into the class setups. So let's start out with the rifles. This one we're going to start out with the Maddox RFB. Still to this day, what I think is the best and most versatile of rifles. Of course, you still have strong candidates in the ICR and Vapor, but also the KN and Rampart can pack some punches with the right class setups. But the Maddox is the most dangerous to me because it feels just as good at range as it does in close quarters. Still probably beating out some of even the SMGs within Black Ops 4. So this is what we're going to base our class setup here on with this. Starting out with the attachments, I'm not a huge fan of the iron sights on the Maddox. I'm not really a big fan of the enclosed circular design that takes away from anything outside of that pinpoint precision. That viewpoint can be obstructed by those iron sights. So I end up putting an optic of the ELO sight on this. It allows me to have that pinpoint precise red dot, but nothing else intruding on my point of view there. Then we end up running fast mags, which allow for faster reloading, as well as quick draw 1 and 2, which will maximize the ADS speed and also give us extra peripheral vision when looking down sight. And that's something that's really interesting to me, that we have a wider field of view when we end up taking a look at this ADSing with quick draw 2. So that's always something that's nice to have, that extra added information on where players may be coming from. But altogether, this is something that I think is a nice little snap-on weapon class setup that can really do well for a fast-paced player. Now, one thing that I will say is kind of a sacrifice is stock, which will improve your movement speed while aiming. If you do want to sacrifice your quick draw 2, which is totally viable of an option for stock, I definitely say go for it if that's something you're more suited for, but I think both quick draw 2 and stock are fantastic options with that. As for the gear we run, stim shot, I've been kind of getting back into stim shot just because I've been trying to play a little more aggressive, which a lot of the times doesn't really work out in Black Ops 4, but you know, I'm not the best with making those kind of decisions on the fly anyway. So stim shot, of course, will allow me to heal a lot faster and a lot quicker to regen back into that full health. Acoustic sensor's been something I've been playing around with a lot as well, but you might see it also in some of these class setups, but for this one, the stim shot is what we're going with. Then we end up running the perks of Scavenger, Gung Ho, and Dead Silence because 1, I like my ammo, I like to stay alive, and I like to replenish that ammo. Gung Ho will allow me to fire my weapon and use equipment while sprinting, also recovering from sprint faster and allowing me to jump back into it, and also still reload while moving at full speed, which can be something that is a must-have in some gunfights. Of course, we do take a primary gunfighter wildcard that just naturally will give us that extra attachment, but that rounds out the Maddox class. It's a lot of fun to play around with, and of course, being a rifle that is probably the most powerful in my mind, no doubt, it's going to be one of the most versatile of what we talk about here today. Next up, let's talk about the SMGs, because this is going to deal with the GKS, one that I've been kind of going around with some headshot challenges and kind of been hit or miss with me a lot, but as of recently playing a little bit more with it, I've come to really enjoy it. This one we end up running 4 attachments on it, so we're going to need primary gunfighter 1 and 2. We don't put an optic on that because I think the iron sights aren't half bad on this one, but we end up running the grip 1 and 2 attachments, quick draw, as well as long barrel. Now grip 1 and 2, if you guys remember how this works, we talked about it with the ICR, it pretty much nullifies the existence of recoil and makes it a laser pointer. That's still kind of how it is with the GKS, even though it's not as much of a laser pointer as it was on the pre-patch ICR, but it's still fantastic to have. So minimizes the recoil by almost 100%, and also once you have grip 2 on it, reduces the flinch when aiming down sight as well. So if you're in a gunfight, it's definitely going to give you a big advantage. So a must-have here, I think, on the GKS. The quick draw will allow you to improve that aiming speed once again, and combine that with what we have of Gung Ho, and you can end up getting a very fast ADS time here on this one, given the circumstances. But then you end up having the long barrel added on as well, which will increase the damage fall off of that. So even though we don't have a long barrel 2 on, it still will give us a better damage over range. Now this to me is probably the best class setup here that I have on deck for run and gun playstyles. I absolutely love this, and as somebody that loves to get up in their face of enemies sometimes, the SMGs can do just that, and this class setup will definitely help you obtain that goal. Now with this class, since it is a run and gun, we make sure that we have stim shot instead of acoustic sensor. While acoustic sensor still would be a great and viable option here for this, because we're gonna be in the action so much, I anticipate on taking damage, and therefore we can end up regenning ourselves rather quickly. Along with that, we end up running the perks of Scavenger and again Gung Ho, just because, well, one, I like my ammo, and two, to be able to fire and use equipment while sprinting is crucial with an SMG class setup, and then also being able to reload at full speed is something that is a very big help as well, bobbing and weaving through enemies and through spawn points perhaps, and so it just allows you to get more into the action with this. The GKS again has kind of grown on me. It wasn't my favorite to begin with, but it definitely packs a massive punch if in the right hands. Now as for the tactical rifles, this is where it came down to a really tough decision for me, because I think there is a very small gap between each of these weapons, the auger, the ABR, and the swordfish. Each have their own, of course, great attributes that in their own rights are fantastic, but if you compare them, they're very close, I think, in terms of the effectiveness, if used properly. But for the auger, we end up running a class setup that I think is rather useful. It's not one that I would recommend getting up in the face of everybody with, but you can be a little aggressive with it as well. For this one, we end up running the Reflex, the Fast Mags, and High Caliber 1 and 2. Reflex, obviously, just because I absolutely cannot stand the base default scope and optic with this. Least favorite optic in all of Black Ops 4, probably on the default auger. So we put the Reflex on so we have that pinpoint precise accuracy of the red dot, but unfortunately there's no elo to get rid of that surrounding metal that may take away from your viewpoint. Fast Mags, of course, allows you to reload faster, which is absolutely crucial. It doesn't have the greatest reload speed whenever you have the base auger as well. And High Caliber 1 and 2, of course, are crucial because it increases the damage to headshots, but also High Caliber 2 allows you to have increased damage to the upper chest. So while you may be effective with those headshots, you may have insane accuracy, even if you miss 1 or 2 shots, as long as you hit the upper chest, you're perfectly fine. Now, you of course can use the operator mod of double tap, which is fantastic as well, but just because it takes up 3 slots in your pick 10, that is the reason that we're not really recommending it here at this one. It is fantastic with the operator mod, but I would say for more standardized class, High Caliber 1 and 2 may be a better result. But with this, for the equipment, we end up running the acoustic sensor, which gives us that sixth sense ability that showcases on our minimap showing where players will be coming from, and also we end up hearing a little bit better. And using my Astros, that really does help out whenever I'm using Dead Silence, which we do end up running on this class. So we end up running Gung Ho, Scavenger, as well as Dead Silence as our perks, and so therefore it kind of rounds out this sort of patrolling the area, not too aggressive but not too passive class setup that I really enjoy with the auger. You of course can do some massive work if in a pinch situation, but for the most part you're going to be that secondary front that will be attacking your enemy, and it does rather well in those situations. Now, as for your LMGs, this is one that you might have seen around gameplay that you just come in contact with on a regular basis, because it is one that is quite meta right now and one that a lot of players may be using, but this is the Titan LMG as our primary here at this one. So for this, we're going to end up running the extended mags attachment, quick draw, as well as stock. Now, extended mags, we don't need to go into extended mags too, because you end up still having 100 shots in the extended mags as is. Quick draw, of course, will allow you to improve that aiming speed, which is crucial for something as clunky as an LMG. And stock, well, that allows you to move faster while ADS, which again is absolutely crucial because LMGs have the slowest movement speed here out of primary weapons. So you add all 3 of those in and you have something that is very mobile and something that has a lot of ammo and is very powerful to top it all off. Along with this, we end up running the equipment of the acoustic sensor. This is kind of a toss-up. If you want stim shot, feel free to, but this one I wasn't really all up in the face of the enemy the entire time, but more so kind of hanging back and controlling areas while also being aggressive. So this allowed me to be able to know where players would be and where they'd be coming from, expecting those gunfights. But along with this, we also end up running Scavenger, Lightweight, and Dead Silence. Lightweight, I think, is probably one of the most crucial here out of this class setup. You can use Gung Ho, but for this one, I liked Lightweight because it allowed me to move faster. And so long as you're either moving or ADSing with stock on, you're gonna have a great mobility compared to any other class setup. And being that you have an LMG, you're gonna pack a lot more damage than most of those other classes. But with Dead Silence, of course, it allows you with that acoustic sensor to hear other enemy players rather easily, and you don't have to be thrown off by your own footsteps. I feel like your base default footstep volume is rather high in Black Ops 4, but that might just be me. Scavenger is the one portion of this class setup that I would say you could probably throw out if you wanted to. If you wanted to take a flak jacket or a tac mask, this is a great opportunity to do so as well, because you have 300 shots as is whenever you spawn in. So it might be a bit gluttonous to end up picking up more ammo as well as what you have in that already, but that comes down to what you want. And And along with this, we of course run the primary gunfighter 1 to give us that extra attachment slot for the stock. Now the final class that we'll talk about here today deals with our final classification of primary weapons, that being the sniper rifles, and for this one, the Paladin is still king out of the snipers. Of course, the SDM, the Outlaw, and the Koshka were all buffed in their own rights. The Koshka and the Outlaw had a slight damage increase even, but the Paladin to me is still the best overall sniper to use. For this one, we end up running again high caliber 1 and 2, but with snipers, high caliber 2 allows you to increase the damage from the waist up, so increasing that one-shot potential ever so slightly just because you have more of the body to hit. Then we end up running the stabilizer on this as well, which will allow us to have reduced weapon sway when aiming, which is honestly pretty big. The Paladin, I think this is the biggest of its hindrances, is the weapon idle sway. Your aim goes all over the place whenever you're not holding your breath, or if you come off of holding your breath, it just goes crazy. So the stabilizer will allow you to, of course, have reduced weapon sway, which is honestly almost non-existent whenever you use this. Stabilizer 2 will allow you to hold your breath longer, but we don't necessarily need that, so that's why we don't double down on that as well. We end up running the RK7 Garrison Vanilla as well. We don't need any attachments here on this because it is a sort of last-ditch effort here in a gunfight. Then we end up running Stim Shot, Scavenger, Gung Ho, and Dead Silence as well. So a very standardized class setup on the back end compared to what we have for the rest of these classes as well. But with this, you of course have the very large potential to one-shot kill players with a sniper, and whether you're at range or mid-range, you can end up doing some real damage here given your accuracy is on point. And being that snipers are that more marksman style of weapon where you have to be precise, that is kind of a given. But this class setup will definitely help you try to get there as easily as possible. So that is where we're gonna wrap it up. That is our 5 class setups here across the 5 classifications of weapons: rifles, SMGs, tactical rifles, LMGs, and snipers. And that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Is there anything that you would alter to these class setups? Anything that you would add on, maybe take away? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And also, if you guys end up trying these class setups out, feel free to tweet me your results after you end up using them. Those links are in the description below to my Twitter and Instagram, but feel free to let me know how you do. If you enjoyed the video though, make sure you drop a like down below. Of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, multiplayer, blackout, zombies. We got you covered with all that. Best in class setups, tips, tricks, news, information, updates, all that good stuff we got you covered here on the channel. So if any of that interests you, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected with me outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. Those links are again in the description below for you to check out if you want to. With all that said and out of the way, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you all so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.